Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump.
And welcome to another edition of Tough Talk with Coach P. I, of course, am your man, Coach P, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. Today we have a great show. We have the incomparable Robbie Rouse. This young man is now the running back coach at Cal Poly, but his journey was a great one, from San Diego to being one of the top players in California, going on to Fresno State, doing great things there, and now is giving back to the community by being a great coach, great man, and great father. Last week, we had a great guest as well, Coach Devon Walker of the Limitless Sports Academy, who is doing very good things with those young men. We talked about the pros and cons of reclassification. Seems like we've been talking about that a lot on the show, but that is a hot button topic, especially given what's going on in the state of high school football and college football with NIL and transfer portals. Now it looks like kids at the lower level are really trying to take advantage of the opportunities that they have and put themselves in the best positions to win and get college scholarships. So we talked a lot about that. So as you know, Tough Talk with Coach P is really about being resources to young coaches. So we're going to always bring you those great things. Also, if you have not subscribed to our Spotify channel, do yourself a favor and subscribe right now. Go to our Spotify channel, Tough Talk with Coach P, and subscribe right now. Also follow us on all social media, Coach P Tough Talk. That again is at Coach P Tough Talk. So we got a great show for you today. I'm not going to waste any more time. You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. We'll be right back with Coach Robbie Rouse on the other end of this commercial break. We'll see you in a sec.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
And welcome back to Tough Talk with Coach P. I, of course, am your man, Coach P, and I have a very, 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 very special guest here today, San Diego's own Robbie Rouse. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I've known you for a long time, man. So before we do anything, I just want to give you your flowers. Seeing you grow as a young man, seeing how you developed from where you came from to where you are right now. God bless you. I love you for that. And I'm so very, very proud of you. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first before we get this thing going. So talk to us. You now, we'll get right into it. You are now the running back coach at Cal Poly. Talk to me about that transition. How'd you get into that? How did that happen? And what's going on at Cal Poly right now?
Before I get in that, man, appreciate you as well, Coach P, for having me. Like I said, I remember you since I was little, and you've always helped out with the youth and gave back to the community, and I see you're still doing it now. I've been kind of locked in with your podcast on TikTok and just, listening to some of the stuff. So, I appreciate you as well.
Thank you, man.
Just got here, out of San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly. And right now it's just kind of the start of this winter quarter where we're hitting the ground running. And, Coach Skipper's a head coach, which is kind of a full circle deal for me because Coach Skipper is somebody I've known for 16 years. He actually was one of the first people to believe in me and give me a scholarship to Fresno State, as an undersized running back from Southeast San Diego. So, that was kind of surreal for me, especially everything I done been through in this last year. So, we're just hitting the ground running and getting these guys going, getting them to buy in the culture and get rolling.
Absolutely. Now, I know that, again, like you said, Cal Poly has went through a coaching change. So there's going to be a new philosophy, and you being the stud running back that you've been doing a lot with what God gave you to do. Talk to me about what you're going to bring to the position, as the running back coach there at Cal Poly.
I'm preaching, from top down because it's a lot of stuff that we talked about and kind of what I inherited when I came to Fresno, just tough, physical, aggressive, and just for me, my guys, first, I just thank them, for allowing me to coach them. We kind of have means, and relationships is extremely important. And before I do anything with my players, I get a chance to meet them and know their why and know where they're come from, where they background. So, because I just believe you can't truly, coach a kid without getting to know them, right? And I think trust is earned. Like, they respect me because I got to see on my check because I'm a coach, but to earn their trust, that has to be with day to day, right? And being consistent and seeing that. And then once they see that I'm all in, all it is just gonna make them be ball in what I do. And then we got kind of get things rolling. But I mean, I have a lot of energy. I love the game. I love the position. What helped me as a player, like I said, I wasn't the biggest player, but I was a student of the game. So, like I tell them, running backs it's undervalued as far as at how high our IQ should be because they think we just get the ball and run. But
Right.
there's so much more schematically that you need to know about the position, about what's the technique, what we're reading, what's our run, what's our footwork. So just not only just how hard we work from day to day, just being a student of the game. So really just kind of sum it up. That's what I'm kind of bringing to the table. And I'm excited, right? It's nice to be back on the West Coast. Slow is a place I've never even been. From being from San Diego and Fresno, you just never pass this place, but it's a hidden gem. We got the John Madden Center opening up here in March, which is awesome. Madden's a game we grew up playing. I didn't even know Madden was a Cal Poly alum. So just to seeing everything that's going, I'm really excited for this opportunity and get things rolling.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned something about the coaches really getting to know them. We're gonna go back a little bit. We're gonna
Yep.
talk about you growing up in San Diego. I want to talk about because that's what we do here on Tough Talk. And just so you know, for me, and you know me for a long time, I want to be a resource to these young coaches, man. I
Yep.
mean, I know my life as a single father, raising my son, what he was able to accomplish with football really kind of goes a long way. So yeah, I think that's a good place to transition to you as a young guy. Like I
Yep.
said, I've known you for a while. I've seen you play youth football, high school football, and have just been amazed by some of the things that you've done. But, it's no secret that the background you're growing up could have been easier. So talk to me about your background and some of the coaches, how important it was for those coaches to reach you and how it shaped you to be the man that you are today. And let me just tell everybody, saying he's a good man is an understatement, right? So talk to me about that.
Absolutely. I was raised in Southeast San Diego, off Imperial, right in 4 or 5 apartments, right? So mom's raised me, single mom, dad's been in jail my whole life. So, that was one of the things why I've always wanted to get in coaching because like you hit, I had some great mentors throughout the way, right? Not only guys that was great coaches, guys that was great fathers, right? Guys that, was great husbands. So those is different things. So when I look back to Pop Warner, I think of like Coach Tommy Westbrook, right? I had Coach Westbrook, in my younger years, right? He moved up with us, but had Coach Townsend as well. And then as I got in my older years, I had Coach Day, right? Coach David Dunn. That was somebody as when I was in Mighty Mike's your second year, that was a guy you really looked up to because he was living the dream that you wanted to as far as not only making it out of here, he was in the league at the time, right? And I was playing with his son. So that was that. And then as I transitioned to high school, I ended up going to Madison and then I had Coach Rick Jackson as well. So those was like 3 guys that really stood out to me throughout it, right? As far as, Coach Westbrook showed me in my younger years, right? He was a smaller guy, right? Never counted me out, always gave me opportunity. Coach Day really showed me the student of the game aspect. Like I've always, we was watching film, as far as because he was coming from that. He was in the league and I was a sponge. I was at his house because he always had us over. And I'm like, man, what we watching? Let's watch that film. He let me call plays. I actually just talked to him the other night how he was telling me when I was younger, he let me call plays. And it was like, that's how much a student of the game. So when it was time to hang up the cleats, it was no doubt that I was going to coach, and then going to Coach Jackson, that was another aspect of how just being able to evolve in a different community. Right.
Right.
Claremont was different than the Southeast. Right. I didn't know much out of the Southeast. So I really think, that transition of just living out there, being around different, backgrounds really helped me move forward and be able to, thrive in my life going to college as well. So, I wouldn't trade it back. It was always a big discussion about, my freshman year I was at Madison, Lincoln was opening. Coach Dady was actually the coach. And that was a tough decision. That was like a big commitment decision I had to make early in my life. And my mom didn't force me. My family was Lincoln graduates. are Madison graduates. My mom a Lincoln graduate. My big sister a Lincoln graduate. Shoot, my dad went to Lincoln. So that was kind of it. But like for me, I knew how legendary Lincoln was, and Madison wasn't doing much. So I'm like, man, let's get us going, right?
For the ones putting in work when no one's watching. From the early risers to the late night ballers. Introducing Youngstar Creatine Gummies. The clean science-backed creatine gummy made for today's athlete. Boost strength, train harder, and recover faster. Youngstar, fueling today's future athlete. Youngstar.
And shout out to my guy Kenny
Yeah.
Beers out there taking over the program at Madison. Great program.
Yeah.
Rick Jackson, great coach. When my son was at Saints, man, we had a lot of battles with Madison, so it was good. It's funny, I was talking to Coach Jorge, who is now the head coach at Mira Mesa High
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
He told me a story about how when you used to travel to practice, man, you'll have a basketball, a football with you. So I mean, if you stopped at a park and whatever smoke somebody wanted, you was able to get out and do it. Talk to me about that. What drove you to be that type of kid where it's like sports is going to be my way and that's it, man?
So it's funny, right? And he got that from my cousins, right? Tyrell and them, Tyrell Ellis, because they was kind of in the youth program with Claremont. And it's funny when you look back, like I've always played year-round sports, right? I played everything. So on my backpack, literally on my bike, man, I used to have the baseball bag with bats. You know, I had a basketball in my backpack with a football. And like through the day, it was like, which I want to play. I had multiple gloves. As far as baseball, I just collect them, get them from people. If they didn't want them, I have them. So multiple gloves. So really, whatever we wanted to play, right, I got it. You know, when it was learning. Now when you look back at that, like it's crazy, you know, that was kind of a way I went about it, but sports was everything for me. I played from sun up to sundown, like truly, you know, until the street lights came on. I didn't have to learn the hard way sometimes from moms because I didn't get home soon enough. The street lights had came, you know how that go. So she didn't have to snatch me off of a court. Right. And in hindsight, she, you know, she loved that she was pulling me off for those reasons and other reasons. But yeah, man, I've always, it was just something God just kind of blessed me to love the game. And I just continue to thrive at that from a young age and, you know, took me to where I'm at now.
So talk to me about the recruit process. And again, I hate to keep bringing this back to Elijah, but you know, going through that process as being a really good player and being a small running back. Talk to me about that the recruiting process, knowing that you're good enough to play at Alabama if you wanted to,
Yeah.
but schools were overlooking. Talk about that journey and then what you went on to do in breaking records at Fresno State, which everybody was from the city was proud of you for. Talk to
Yeah.
me about that journey and how did you keep your mind right to do that when you know that you're one of the best running backs in the nation, but they're not looking at you that way because of something you couldn't control.
You know, I think it's important always in life to just, you know, have expectations and standards for yourself. But, you know, when you have that, you also got to work towards that. You know, and I really never, it was hard for me to think of myself in that limelight of not being big enough because every level I played that, I was able to play at an extremely high level.
Right.
So even when I look at it, yeah, I was recruited slower than other guys. But the thing that I didn't have that's hurting this generation is social media, right?
Right.
So for me, maybe it would have tore me down a little. It would have been tougher to see that I'm one of the top backs and I might have guys who might have got early offers, right, than me because they was bigger than me when I was the best dude in the state, right? It was me, you know, Gaffney probably would have had all kind of offers, which I did see, but it was never all you needed was one, right? And I was getting all the letters and stuff, so that was enough to kind of keep me at ease with
Motivated.
everything. And I just
Yeah.
kept grinding. But I'll never forget, Coach Jackson told me, like, hey, I know what you can do, Robbie, but you got to be open to every school recruiting you. And this was like FCS schools, right? Portland State, you know, it could have been like us at Cal Poly, Sac State. And in my head, I was like, I hear you. But in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going wherever I want to go. And I just kept that standard. And then really, San Diego State offered me from 7-on-7 passing league. They just couldn't let me leave. without offering me because we dominated that passing league. And then the same thing with Fresno State. I developed a rapport with Coach Hill, Coach Tim Skipper from going to the team camps for years.
Right.
So they seen me develop. They seen how I was. They seen my day to day. So they was able to not only, fall in love with the athlete, but the player. And that's how truly, can find a good recruit is by finding his makeup and what gets him going. It's the intangibles, right? We look at all the greats like Tom Brady, right? He's one of the greatest to play, right? He's not the fastest, strongest arm, but he got the intangibles. And now that we hear him talk, you're like, I see why he was a great player.
Right.
Like it makes sense now. So, really, that's why I was kind of set on Fresno, man. And it's not like, and then as I got down the stretch of my senior year, it's kind of funny because, my stats was crazy, but Kansas State and actually Michigan tried to offer me mid-January because Tate Forcier was already actually out there.
Right.
And Rich Rodriguez and them had, they lost it back. And then Tate was like, hey, San Diego was a baller, and they liked the tape. And this was when Rich was just doing West Virginia stuff, Noel Devine, Pat White, and them. So
Right.
I'm like, I really was suited, but I was kind of stubborn enough and high strung, never want to be anybody's sloppy seconds, right? I had that in me, as a young and not, by the glim and glitter. So I didn't even go on a trip to Michigan. And do I wish I took it? No, I probably don't, because it would have been tough to say no to. You go to the
Right.
big house, man, you might, and
Right.
everything worked out for me. So, I just end up, going to Fresno, and everything worked out for me, played next to Ryan Matthews as a freshman, and then, started 3 years and, go on to do some great things there. So, yeah, I mean, definitely surreal. It's funny because I tell the players now, like, I appreciate my career more now that I look back at, because when in life, when you got expectations for things, it's hard for you to appreciate it, because
Absolutely.
you're just like, this is what I expected. But still in life, we still got to sit back and just be like, man, I'm blessed. I'm
Yeah.
doing what I love, and I say that daily now, right? As far as my career, like I said, this year I've been through, just be like, man, I'm doing what I love. I'm blessed. I'm giving the game everything I have, and I wake up and do what I love.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
When I hear you speak and I'm sitting here watching you speak, I couldn't be prouder of you than if I was your own dad, bro. It's crazy to me, man. I'm really, really, really proud of you. I've been watching you from afar. And speaking of being a dad, talk to me about that. Talk to me about that journey. What is that like? I know for me, when I first became a father, it was a burden of greatness, but not
Yeah.
not in a bad way though. It was a life altering change for me that put everything else
Yeah.
in perspective. Talk to me about what that meant to you and how's that journey going?
Man, I love my baby Renly. I mean, she's everything, right? She's like a girl version of me. It's funny when I look at it because, Ren 2020, right? You think of this like January of 2020, late 20 January, Kobe Bryant dies, right? Which is like everybody knew where they was when that happened, right? I was
Mhm.
at a banquet at Augustana, and everybody was looking at their phones like, oh my gosh, is this real? 2 weeks later, you know, my mom passes away unexpectedly, right? So that is a lot, right? Mom, like I said, moms was everything to me. If you know me,
Right.
you know moms, right?
I do know that.
And then, Ren, moms gets pregnant with her that year, July of 2020. So when she first even told me that, I wasn't even, I was kind of like, I was numb through everything because that was COVID. I was dealing with my mom. I wasn't coaching. It was just, I'm living in Grand Forks, North Dakota, middle of nowhere. Like everything about this situation is not ideal for me, right? But,
Right.
moms, trained me to be 10 toes down. We never fold. And so I'm keeping my head strong. My little sister's 15 at the time. So I'm like, man, if she keeping it together, how can I? Because I couldn't imagine losing my mom at 15. So that's
Right.
kind of what I leaned on to be like, man, that's why I'm proud of her. for any of my older sisters, just them able to, power through that. When my daughter's mom got pregnant with her, I knew I was having a girl because I was like, man, I just lost something. I got an empty spot in my heart. I knew I was having a girl. So it was kind of like God blessed me was something he knew I needed. Right.
Right.
So, and then Ren, so she was a COVID baby and she was born 4, 3, 2, 1. So man, it's been precious. Like I said, being a dad is the greatest gift you can ever have. She not out here right now, so talking to her on the FaceTime and thank God for FaceTime. And it's just crazy to just see him grow, and you really don't see how fast you could testament to this. You never see how fast time fly until you have a little one. Then you
Right.
like, okay, because you're like, man, you're 4 now, about to be 5. It's like time just goes, man. So like I said, she's a bundle of joy. That's my baby. I love her, and I'm blessed, to be her
Man,
father.
Man, talk about the motivation too. I
Mm,
know for me, I was a single father, so back in
yeah,
those days, it was me and my 3 boys. I've been fortunate enough now where I have a daughter. It just something about the girls kind of hit different. You know what I'm saying? Even my boys tell me, like they look at me and some of the stuff that she's allowed to do, say,
yeah.
and stuff like that. It's just different. The girls hit different.
It's crazy because like I grew up around all girls, right? I got all sisters. My older sister always says I treat my niece different. I treat my nephews. And you think of me, I'm the football guy, the coach. You think I want a boy, and it's like it's whatever, right? You just want a healthy baby that God blessed you with. You really don't. I knew I was having a girl just with losing my mom, but man, it's something about a girl. She has you wrapped around your fingers, can't go wrong. I mean, like I said, it's only you really words can describe, how you feel or, how much you could love them, until you
Right.
truly have a kid, right?
Right.
Especially a daughter at that. So, nah, like I said, I'm so blessed.
That's what's up. And that was one of the things I definitely wanted to ask you because I see, the social media stuff and how it was, especially when she was born and when she was little. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he's out there doing it. So before one of us start crying, I'm gonna go ahead and move away, move away from that. So lastly, Cal Poly guys are up there. Talk to me about what some of the goals are for this season. I'll tell you, Cal Poly really recruited Elijah pretty tough.
Yeah.
And there on campus, he wanted to be there. But like you said about the academic pressure, even though, the grades were good, or the SAT scores, I think his SAT scores was off by like maybe 5 points or something like that. And the head coach at the time, I mean, he stood on the table to get Elijah in there, but the school did not budge. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He ended up going on to state and doing what he did there. But
Yeah.
talk to me about that because a lot of these kids really don't understand when you go to college. Yeah, you want to play football, but these are institutions of higher learning. So talk to me about that as it relates to Cal Poly.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Poly's probably, out of all the schools, just the academic requirement is different, right? The getting a degree here at Cal Poly versus my Fresno State, not even comparable, right?
Right,
It's not. And for us as coaches, right, like really, we pretty much need a kid as far as the SAT scores have changed. So that we have been allowed to get kids in the scores kind of wiped somewhat.
right.
Right
Okay,
now, we'll add it if it can help out with
right,
things, but we'll never let it hurt you. But on
right,
the flip side, it's important to find a kid that you know can thrive. Because let's say I really like a kid athletically, but I know he struggles, right? He's just on the border. Like he's a 3-0 kid, but I mean a 3-0 kid that's working hard, not a
right,
3-0 lazy kid, right?
right,
That's not gonna benefit the kid, right? That what am I doing to help him out if I'm recruiting a kid that I know can't make it? So there's certain kids with certain requirements that you have to recruit here that love ball, that get good grades, right? And that could thrive, right? And help you win games. So that's things we look for. Now on the flip side, it makes the pool that much smaller for recruiting. So I don't have to watch a million guys because it's like no grades, I can't do it. And it
right,
sucks for the standpoint because every situation is case by case is different. Right. So I'm about, I know kids had tough, I come from a tough background, right? But like when you look at it, it's really not hard to be able to get good grades in high school, right? Even at the college level, as you start doing things, all you need to do is go to school, do your homework, and show up to class, right? Because if you show up to class, that means you're taking in the work. You should be able to do solid on your grades, right?
right,
So those are bad habits. So if I see a kid, with not a great transcript, I always look, where did the bad grades come from? If it came from their early years, which is ideal, okay, immature, let's talk about it, right? Now, if we seen that flip switch, love that, right? That mean if it flipped for you, you can go. But if I see constant, oh, that, it's nothing to do with that, because if you can't manage high school, you're not gonna manage college. I don't have just like, oh, if you ain't this, I don't want you.
Right.
Everything case by case. You got to get to know the kid and see if he has the intangibles of makeup. You never know if that kid moved around with this parent or this and that, but you don't know if you don't ask. So that's
Right.
why it's important to me to really get, like, the coaching part shouldn't be hard if the recruiting part, you're really doing your thorough background. And that's why you see these coaches that, like, Indiana coach, right? Cincinnati, right? They're weeding all the stuff out, right? They're not
Right.
worried about the kid's stars is or this or that. Even though I was at South Dakota State and we won that, he's like, you got to get the kid with the right fit who will love and know what they really love and what the makeup is. That's why I always want to figure out what's my why with the kids. Like, why? So then as we get to grinding, then I'm like, okay, well, you told me you want to do this. So that don't add to that. 1 + 1 always been 2, you know?
Right.
So, once we stay consistent with that, and that's on me. Right, I gotta be the same guy on Wednesday that I was Monday and keep it going, because once I'm not consistent as a coach, then they feel like they can lean off. Now it ain't connecting, right?
Right.
Like, you realize in coaching, it ain't hard, right? It ain't hard as far as, like, seeing teams with the results. The teams that do the right stuff, they win. The teams
Right.
that don't, they lose,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's just kind of how it goes.
You don't just show up, you show out every damn day. This ain't your average energy boost. Young Star Energy Gummies give today's future athletes clean fuel with real results. No jitters, no crash, just straight up energy and faster bounce back. Clinically shown to support energy, muscle recovery, and cellular health. Young Star, stay lit, recover quick, and level up. Young Star.
Now, do you think your recruiting process, your background, what you had to go through, do you think it shapes the way that you relate to kids? Because listening to you talk as the dad of a running back, as a running back myself, if you came in my living room, my ears would perk up, right? Because
Yeah,
you're saying all the right things. Where do you think that came from? You think that the process that you went through kind of shaped you into the way you recruit now?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think, that's why you always hear, like, from OGs, right? So because there's so much wisdom, right? Things we go through, there's so many lessons, there's so many things we learn. Like, every year as a coach, I get better, right? I don't just get better from what I learned on the field, it's just experience, things you went through, right? I ain't gonna say I've always did all the right things, off the field or on the field or in coaching, but I know sometimes lessons become blessings if you truly learn from them, right? If you
Right.
don't, then you just not getting better, right? You see
Right.
some coaches, they come on the scene and they're high and they kind of fiddle out. Are they getting better? Are they trying to buy into their craft? So I do think there is things that, I can relate. I can relate to a kid who's, was raised in a tough neighborhood, who didn't have everything. Like, I don't want to hear excuses, bro, because I've been there. I'm not saying it's easy, but I don't want to hear excuses.
Right.
I've
Right.
also been in a community with kids who had everything, but they didn't have anybody pouring into them. At the end of the day, kids want to be loved. It don't matter skin color, don't matter where you come from. Kids want to be loved. Kids want expectations. They want to be held to a standard. And that's it. And if they don't, then I don't know what to tell you, because no matter what you do in life, you go have to have expectations. You go have to have follow rules. And that's for anything. When you get into the real world, you got to follow rules. You got to listen up. You got to go to work. So those are just things that, core values that, I've always been preaching, things I carry on.
Right. I'm gonna ask you this, and it may seem like a weird question, but it's a real one that I think is going to help young men, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I believe God put me on this earth to help young men, that look like me to reach
Yeah.
their goals, right? I just use football and sports and all the stuff that you've seen me ever do as the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
reach and pour into these young black men, right? Why didn't you become a statistic? Right? Like, you had every reason to be.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to these people and let them know why it didn't happen to you and what they need to do, right? To avoid the bullshit.
One I think of, like I said, my mom didn't mess around, right? My mom was strict. I knew I've always wanted to be active and play sports. And it was like, as soon as you get home, you don't do anything unless you do that homework. So mom held me to a structure where that structure becomes routine to you. It was get home, do my homework, then I could play the game, go outside. Right. And I knew I love sports enough that helped, my father being away. I knew for me internally that kind of hurt. So I knew if you didn't do the right things, you could end up there, and that's not somewhere I wanted to be. So those things were really good. And then as I started to shape and become a really talented athlete, my community kind of owned into me. And it wasn't like you see in the movies. My community never tried to like take me away, like, hey, Robbie, come do this. They was like, hey, man, that's you. This is what you do. And they kind of, was motivated off of me and showed me nothing but love. So
Right.
it was kind of like everybody knew, man, Robbie's a baller. Robbie's gonna do the right things. And that was kind of me. That was kind of my image, right? I never did anything other than that. I mean, there was things that was, tempting, especially as you getting you're older and you see the things people start getting X, Y, and Z. But I always knew there was a bigger picture, man. I work hard, I get to college, I get to the NFL, I get to NFL, I get paid. So I just always tried to keep the main thing and just stay on track. But like I said, it's easier said than done. I just had a great support system, with my mom, my sister, and then people in the community. Guys would be like, "Hey, man, you score a touchdown, I got you." And it was, taking care of me. So like I said, man, Southeast is beautiful, man. They took care of me throughout my life and still continuing to show me love.
Man, I love that. I recently had Mitchie on the show,
Yeah.
and we were talking about that because for me, I mean, I'm not from San Diego, but I've been in San Diego. My oldest son is he's 30, so I've been in San Diego for 32 years. So I've been in San Diego longer than I was in DC. I'm from Washington DC originally.
Okay. Okay.
And one thing about San Diego that I think we need to do better with, particularly as the Black community, is sticking together and really loving on the young men and women that come out of our community. And I
Yeah.
always ask those questions, what we can do to better work together. And I'll ask that of you as because I believe, your time was, that was when the community protected its assets, and you
Yep.
being one of the community assets in terms of football and sports. Not so much anymore, right? With social media and this type of stuff,
Yeah.
and again, talking with Mitchie, some of the challenges that they have over there in the Lincoln area to really get those kids focused up. I mean, Coach David Dunn, I mean, people don't really understand being over at Lincoln where I see all the oodles and noodles and the stuff, because some of these kids don't eat and all this other good stuff, how he has
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
dad, mom, uncle, social worker, that type of stuff. And they still do what they do over there. It is amazing. So, what's some of the things that you think as a young man that has propelled himself to a certain level, but still wants to pour back into the community? What are some of the ways you see that us and I'll shrink it down to the Black coaching community? What are
Yeah.
some of the things we could do to work together, right, to ensure that the Robbie Rouses of our communities don't fall through the cracks?
Man, first it starts from top. You got to make sure that everybody's doing it for the right reasons. I stay in tune to everything as far as on the Facebooks, and I feel like recently, you know, Pop Warner or youth or whatever it is has changed, right? There's so many like, coaches. I feel like they're trying to be Nick Sabans, right? Instead of just change lives, right? And do it for the right reason, right? You got, recruitment aspect of it, and when I played, that was your team. That was who you played with, and you came up together, and that's what it was. VP was VP, Skyline was Skyline, Balboa was Balboa. Like I don't even think when I played, if a kid tried to come over from Balboa or Skyline, or if we'd have let him, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, bro, you don't play here, dude. And it
Right.
wasn't even like that kind of friction, but it was though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is how we get down. Like some of my best friends played at Balboa, or Skyline, but it was like when we get after, right? So like you kind of lost that art of it, but it's kind of like the generation because when you think of that, that's college football. You know what I mean? You got kids transferring all over. So I think we just got to continue to be teachers, and it starts from down there, and just keep the main thing, because, you got to be doing it for the love of it. I mean, that's why you're
Right.
doing it. It's not like everybody's getting big paychecks for doing that, right?
Right.
They're getting their fix. They're getting that, their endorphin out of there. They're being able to coach, but I think it just has to start within the community, and then just making the main thing and the core values, and just try to preach that as much as you can. Cause like, I don't care whatever it is as far as college coaching or the portal and stuff. When I still talk to a kid, it's still gonna be the main things that matter. Yeah,
Right.
we have the people that handle the NIL, and they could do that because that's just the norm now. That's what they do, but it's still the kid. I need that right kid who it matters to them about playing ball, right? They care about ball. So
Right.
I mean, I just think that it's just gotta be consistent. But that would has changed. I don't think social media helps at all with that.
I agree. I agree. Now you mentioned it. NIL, man, is NIL hurting or helping college football? What's your thoughts? And I know you can't really speak much being an active coach, but
Yeah, yeah.
what, how do you what do you think needs to happen with this NIL thing, man, to make it better? And I'll say this, right? Dante Moore staying in school when he was slated to be the number 2 overall
Yeah,
pick,
yeah.
it has to have the NFL's ears perched up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what do you think about it without, stepping in it?
And like I said, I don't want to hit on it too much because you try to not. Could be a sensitive subject. I say for the most part, just need more rules on it, right?
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
rules. I just don't want kids to lose that hunger, as far as the game, because everybody wanted to make it to the league, right?
Right.
But I mean, there's devil's advocate to it, because I mean, you got some kids who could get the most out of their college, right? And they probably won't play in the league, and they're trying to exert much as they can out of their college career, and they're getting everything out of them. So there's pros and cons to both. All I want to say, as far as a kid, the student athlete, I don't want them to lose that hunger, because if
Right.
we've always wanted to, man, I want to make it so I could buy my this, or this. Now you watch the NFL draft, dudes' chains is bigger than it ever has been, right? Like,
Yeah.
if that's just little stuff you look at. So, like I said, they just got to put some rules on it, right? And kind of go from there. But it is what it is, right? That's kind of what they did. You still could keep your core values as a coach and go from there and play ball.
All right, coach. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, man. I really appreciate the time. I got you locked in. I'm gonna reach out to you about some players. Hopefully, it's a receptive ear.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I'll definitely feed what I have to you, man. But again, I just wanted to reach out to you, man. Say thank you for coming on. I want to speak life into you as I
yeah.
do with the guys that come on our show, man, just to let you know, man, that I'm very proud of you. I see what you're doing, not only from a football standpoint, but as a man and as a father. The example that you have, allowed God to use you to be, is magnificent. If there is ever anything that I can do for you, it is a phone call away. Continue to let your light shine, young king. And you got a fan in me forever, man. So thank you so much for coming on, man. And I'll definitely be in touch.
Man, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, full circle moment, because I remember, like I said, I remember seeing you raise the little ones right up, and seeing yours that came through, and he was a monster. So I appreciate you and love what you're doing, man. And anytime I could give back or help, and if I'm available, I'm always try to make time. And like I said, just thanks again. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. We will be right back.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
And welcome back to Tough Talk with Coach P. This was an absolutely amazing show with a great young man. Again, speaking life into this young man. And I've had the great privilege of knowing him since he was a young running back, since he was a young man. I've actually seen and witnessed some of the challenges that this great young coach has had to overcome in his life. And despite all of it, he is the great young man that you see before you today. Let that be a lesson to you guys out there. Listen, Playing is not the only way to reach your goals. All right. We need coaches. We need scouts, right? There is the college football route. There is being a trainer, those type of things. If you want to get a job in sports, it doesn't necessarily have to be playing in the NFL. And Coach Rouse is a great example of that. I'm very proud of him. Thank you guys for coming and listening to our show today. Also, if you have not subscribed, please take a moment right now to subscribe to our Spotify channel. It don't cost you anything. Go ahead and subscribe right now at Tough Talk with Coach P. Again, follow us on social media as well. Coach P Tough Talk. You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. I am your man, Coach P. I'm out.
Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. Shout out all the coaches. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump. I'm a product of his coaching. Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. Shout out all the coaches. Yeah. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump. I'm a product of his coaching. Gotta give it up for Coach.